Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us a really important set of materials this time.
Yeah, focusing on caregiving, right? Especially with dementia involved and also downsizing for seniors.
Exactly. It's a demanding world. So our mission here is to take those resources you sent, articles from A Place for Mom, the UCLA Easton Center, Piedmont Healthcare, seniorliving.org.
Talkspace, Ageways too, and even some real-world stuff from Reddit and tips from assistedliving.org.
Right, quite a collection. And we want to pull out the crucial insights, the really usable stuff, to help navigate these often really complex situations. So we'll explore the realities of being a caregiver, what support is actually out there, specific techniques for dementia care.
And the emotional side, the financial weight of it all, and of course what you need to think about if downsizing is maybe on the cards.
Okay, let's get into it.
It really is a landscape where so many things come together. I mean, when you look at just how common caregiving is, the numbers are, well, they're pretty striking. The fact that back in 2023, 1 in 5 U.S. adults was caring for an older person, that really shows how many people this touches.
1 in 5. Wow.
And then think about the time commitment. Unpaid family caregivers spending, on average, 37 hours a week. That's practically a full-time job.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just the hours spent, is it? The effect on their own well-being is, well, pretty significant.
Huge.
82% said their physical and mental health was jeopardized, and a big majority, 76%, felt like they just weren't ready for, the sheer scale of it all.
Yeah, unprepared.
It brings to mind that term, the sandwich generation, doesn't it? You've got people often in their 50s, maybe 60s, trying to balance caring for their parents with looking after their own kids, sometimes even grandkids.
It's a massive juggling act. And we can't forget the money side either.
No.
Family spending, on average, over, what was it, $7,200 a year just on caregiving-related costs?
It's a considerable chunk of change for most people.
It really is. It shows caregiving hits time, emotions, and the household budget. Hard.
Okay, so let's pivot a bit to the unique challenges that come with dementia care specifically.
Right.
The UCLA Easton Center material really clarifies dementia isn't just, forgetting things. It's a progressive brain disorder. It affects memory, yes, but also clear thinking, communication, even basic self-care.
And those mood swings, the personality changes. That adds another really difficult layer for caregivers to handle.
Absolutely.
What's really interesting, though, looking at the UCLA guidance, is how much they stress adapting how you communicate. It's sort of shifting away from trying to, correct them or reason things out, and instead meeting them where they actually are at that moment.
How so?
Well, things like creating a calm, positive atmosphere right from the start, getting their attention properly, minimizing distractions, using their name, making eye contact, and then stating your message clearly. Simple words, simple sentences, speaking slowly, reassuringly, repeating or maybe rephrasing if it doesn't land the first time.
And asking simple questions, right? Yes, no seems best.
Yeah, absolutely. One question at a time. And using visual cues can help too, like pointing or demonstrating. These, well, they seem like small things, but they can make a huge difference.
It's really about adapting the communication, isn't it? Meeting the person where they are.
Precise.
And I thought that point about listening not just with your ears, but with your eyes and your heart, that was really insightful.
Being present.
Yeah, being present, watching those nonverbal signals, trying to catch the emotion behind the words, or even, behind the silence sometimes.
And breaking down tasks. That's another big one. Simple, manageable steps. Using those visual cues again, maybe showing them what needs doing. It helps maintain that sense of independence for longer.
Definitely.
When you hit those challenging moments, if the person gets agitated or upset, the advice is first, try to distract and redirect, sure. But maybe more importantly, connect with them on that feeling level first.
Acknowledge the feeling.
Exactly. So you understand why they might be upset before you try and shift their focus. It builds trust, shows empathy.
And the simple power of touch, a gentle hand, a hug, offering praise. Sometimes that cuts through the confusion when words just, well, don't.
It really can. And that idea about remembering the good old days.
Oh, yeah, reminiscing. That was touching.
Because long-term memory often stays intact longer, right? So asking about the past, things from way back, can be really comforting for them. Validating even. Maybe avoid questions that need short-term recall.
That makes sense. Now, both the UCLA and the Piedmont guides, they get into some very practical strategies for specific behaviors, like wandering, for instance.
Yes, and these are the day-to-day realities for caregivers, aren't they? for wandering. Things like putting essential items like keys or purses away, using ID bracelets or maybe labels sewn into clothes with contact info.
Good idea.
Keeping current photos handy, letting neighbors know what's going on just in case. These are real, tangible steps for safety.
And what about repetitive speech or actions? That perseveration?
Yeah, what's interesting there is that often it's rooted in something else,
Right.
maybe anxiety, boredom, fear, or something in the environment.
Yeah.
So addressing that underlying cause can be more effective than just trying to stop the repetition itself.
Right. Get to the root cause. And bathing. Oh boy, that can be a big challenge.
Huge. The advice there is things like try to remember their old routines or preferences. Make safety the absolute top priority. And have alternatives ready, like maybe a towel bath if a full shower is too stressful.
Making hair washing separate, maybe? Understanding they might feel vulnerable, that loss of privacy?
Exactly. It's all about adapting, even for oral hygiene, using those oral swabs if brushing is a struggle, or offering some fresh fruit to help cleanse the mouth. Just practical, in-the-moment solutions.
And toileting, too. Sometimes just going with them in a public restroom can provide that reassurance.
They can prevent accidents, yeah.
Yeah.
And keeping the person engaged, that's vital. Meaningful activities.
Like what?
Things connected to their life, looking at little photos, sharing stories, listening to music they love, simple, familiar tasks they can still manage. Maybe gardening if they enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Even things like therapeutic biographies using photos and family stories.
That sounds lovely. And sleep disturbances, that's another common one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Suggestions there include maybe a light snack before bed, some quiet music, a gentle back rub, making sure they use the bathroom right before sleep, and simple safety things like maybe reflective tape on the floor leading to the bathroom. Blackout shades can help too. And daytime exercise, but not too close to bedtime.
Right. Okay. And then there's the really tough one, driving. When it's just not safe anymore.
Oh, that's incredibly difficult. Recognizing the warning signs is the first step. Then approaching that conversation, it needs sensitivity, but also firmness.
And that suggestion of blaming the doctor.
Yeah, sometimes that can take the pressure off the caregiver. It helps the person accept the decision without feeling like, you're taking away their independence unfairly. But sometimes, realistically, removing the car, taking away the keys, it becomes necessary.
Yeah, a hard step.
And some other behaviors may be less obvious, like hiding things.
Oh, right.
Just knowing that this can happen, maybe figuring out common hiding spots, keeping duplicates of essentials like glasses or keys. It's about minimizing frustration for everyone.
And the really sensitive issue of sexually inappropriate behavior.
Very delicate.
Well,
It's important to understand it might stem from lost inhibitions or even seeking comfort. The main strategies are usually distraction and redirection,
okay.
and checking for physical causes too, like a UTI. Offering understanding to anyone else affected is crucial. And that idea of having discrete explanation cards for public situations, that's a thoughtful approach.
It really is. And through all of this, both guides really stress thinking about the emotional experience of the person with dementia. The fear, the insecurity they might feel, maybe denying they're forgetful, the potential for anger or depression. It's just so vital to consistently treat them with respect, maintain their dignity.
Create that calm, predictable environment. Stick to routines. Simplify tasks. Don't overwhelm them with choices.
Yeah.
And that brings up that concept of what's sometimes called ethical lying.
Right. I saw that mentioned.
In certain really sensitive spots, like that driving issue we talked about, a compassionate untruth might be used. The goal is to prevent significant distress without causing actual harm.
So it's about prioritizing their emotional well-being when maybe they can't fully process or accept a difficult reality.
Exactly. It's a tricky area, but sometimes considered necessary.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the support systems, the ones for the caregivers themselves. This is crucial.
Absolutely vital.
A Place for Mom had a really helpful list of online support groups. I liked how they categorized them, Groups for memory impairment issues, general family caregiving, even groups for both professional and family caregivers together.
Yeah, specific names like Memory People, the Dementia Caregivers Support Group, Aging Cares Forum, Working Daughter. It shows there's a real range of communities out there.
Catering to different experiences. And those closed Facebook groups.
And they offer that privacy, don't they? A safe space to share really personal, really tough stuff without worrying about it being, broadcast everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then there are the in-person groups.
Right, through big organizations like the Alzheimer's Association, National Stroke Association, Parkinson's Foundation, American Cancer Society. Even the VA has caregiver support.
And the point was made that local chapters often provide more sort of immediate practical support for your specific community.
Definitely. And contacting your local area agency on aging, that's always a great first step to find out what's available right near you.
And that Piedmont Healthcare's 60-plus services sounded like a fantastic local resource, offering support, education, evaluations, specifically including caregiver resources and dementia support.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because providing this kind of care, especially for progressive conditions like dementia, it just takes a massive emotional and physical toll on the caregiver. Multiple sources really hit that point hard.
So true. And it's so important to just acknowledge those difficult feelings that come up. You know, the anger, the resentment, maybe even guilt.
They're common and normal.
Right. Feeling them doesn't make you a bad person. It's a human reaction to an incredibly demanding, often overwhelming situation.
And the social isolation that can happen, losing touch with friends, having zero time for your own life, that really wears you down over time.
Yeah, it really can. And the risks for depression and anxiety are, well, they're pretty high for caregivers.
Definitely. Recognizing the signs, knowing help is available, medication, therapy, but that's so important. It can make a genuine difference.
And that point about role changes. Suddenly you're a caregiver, taking on things you never expected. That requires a huge adjustment and a lot of self-compassion.
You have to be kind to yourself.
Wow.
Which leads right into the absolute necessity of self-care.
Yes. Talkspace had some really concrete strategies. Setting boundaries, which is hard.
Very hard.
Making sure you take regular breaks, even when it feels impossible. Practicing stress reduction things like mindfulness or meditation. Reaching out for support, those groups we mentioned, friends, family.
Staying active, eating well, trying to get enough sleep. All the basics, but they matter so much.
Oh.
And considering therapy, having that professional, objective support can be invaluable for navigating all the complex emotions.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's move into the practical nuts and bolts, financial and legal stuff.
Right, because getting ahead of this can save a lot of stress later on. The Piedmont Guide really emphasized tackling legal matters early, ideally, when the person can still participate in those decisions.
Makes sense. They listed key documents relevant for Georgia, like the Advanced Directive for Healthcare that combines the living will and power of attorney, plus wills, trusts, and those D&R around orders about life support.
And it's crucial to remember these documents are often state-specific. You need the right ones for where you live.
Good point. And beyond just getting the documents signed, there's doing a proper financial health check, setting up that power of attorney, organizing all the important papers.
And starting to actually plan for potential long-term care costs. That's a big one.
Yeah. And keeping an eye on bills, exploring benefits like Medicare, Medicaid. Every bit helps manage the financial pressure.
Piedmont also broke down the typical costs for different care levels. Home care is often out of pocket initially unless you have long-term care insurance or qualify for Medicaid.
Right. And assisted living, in Georgia at least, usually private pay. Nursing homes can be private pay or Medicaid if you meet the criteria. And the big reminder, Medicare generally doesn't cover long-term custodial care.
That catches a lot of people out.
It really does. It was interesting seeing that Ageways info from Michigan, though, about them increasing the asset limits for their Medicaid long-term care programs, like MI Choice and PACE-E.
What were the new limits?
$9,660 for an individual, $14,470 for a couple. And assets, meaning, bank accounts, stocks, bonds, real estate, that kind of change can really open up access to support for more people.
And they mentioned Michigan's home help program, too. It just shows there can be state-specific programs worth looking into.
Definitely. Which kind of leads us into downsizing complexities, especially for seniors on fixed incomes. That Reddit discussion really brought that home.
Yeah, it's not usually as simple as just swapping one mortgage for another, is it?
Not at all. There are big costs, realtor commissions that can be, 3 to 6%, and potential capital gains tax on the profit from selling the house.
Right, the tax on the profit you make from selling an asset like a home. Depends on how long you owned it, how much it appreciated.
So while one Redditor mentioned banks might still lend to older folks with good credit and income or assets,
it needs careful checking with a financial advisor, for sure.
And the idea of adult kids helping with a purchase came up, but then that warning about mixing assets because of Medicaid look-back periods.
Yeah, transferring assets recently could mess up eligibility later if you need Medicaid.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
And just renting instead of buying after selling the house, that's a valid option too, right? More flexibility, maybe fewer ongoing costs.
Absolutely. The big takeaway from that Reddit thread seemed to be, get professional advice. a financial planner, a real estate agent who knows seniors' needs, and definitely an elder law attorney.
Build your team.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally, just briefly, home modifications for aging in place, that assistedliving.org piece.
Right, because simple changes can make a huge difference for safety and independence.
Like installing handrails, maybe adding ramps, using safer flooring, they mention rubber or cork, making sure carpets don't slip, stair lifts, obviously, if needed.
And bathroom mods are huge. Non-slip decals in the tub, a shower bench, grab bars, maybe those single-lever faucets that are easier to use.
And technology helps too, right? Smart home stuff, controlling lights or locks remotely, better thermostats, special smoke alarms that say where the fire is, and medical alert systems, of course.
Definitely. And it was good to see there are ways to potentially afford these mods. Some Medicare Advantage plans might cover some things. Government programs like USDA grants or state Medicaid waivers, even potential tax incentives sometimes.
Worth looking into. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. The main takeaway feels like, yes, caregiving, especially with dementia, is incredibly challenging.
Immensely.
But there are a lot of resources out there, effective strategies, support systems for both the caregiver and the person needing care.
And downsizing, too, requires that careful, thoughtful planning, looking at all the angles, financial, emotional.
Absolutely. The bottom line is you don't have to navigate this alone.
Please don't. Reach out to those support groups, talk to the professionals, explore the resources available. There's a lot of knowledge and support out there to help you on these, well, these demanding but often really meaningful journeys.
Well said. And on that note, maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Considering everything we've talked about, what's maybe one small, actionable step you could take, maybe this week, to better support yourself or a loved one in one of these situations?
Could be looking up a local support group,
Yeah.
contacting that area agency on aging, or just starting one of those difficult but necessary conversations about legal or financial planning.
Whatever it is, we hope you explore the resources we've touched on. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.